Hi, Shami Majaz here, research student in England. I like to give you an overview of our series. In this series, I want to start with the aim of the talk, and it's to enhance our dimensions of thinking, to conceptualize, design, and conduct qualitative research in social sciences. By social sciences, I mean scientific study of human affairs and research implementation across a host of disciplines and specialties. In relation to learning objectives, our main objective is learning about the qualitative research. Before going forward, we must explain what is research and educational research. The systematic application of a family of methods that are employed to provide trustworthy information about educational problems. Let's talk about in details. Can we count everything? So there is a quote attributed to Einstein who reflected that not everything that counts can be counted and not everything that can be counted counts. So give a couple of minutes and think about the circumstances or an issue or any phenomena in your project, life, practice, or area of research. I would like to invite you to contemplate means that perhaps can we have a number assigned to it if we are interested, for instance, in the perceptions of a student. You might think about preferences for services at any institution. This may be something that it was very difficult to put a number on it. So, this is something just appreciate the potential power of qualitative methods. Let's take an example. We might be interested in institute with any type of learning. This first question is a quantitative question. What proportion of students with learning disabilities stop studying in higher education institutions in previous 5 years? What proportion of students with learning disabilities stop taking their classes for a few consecutive years in a previous decade? This is something that we can quantify, put a number on it, can be very important. An overall question looking at adherence permanent to learning regimes. In this group, a different question related to the same phenomena might be how does higher education shape the lives of a student with learning disabilities? And so looking at a very different perspective, the student experience whether or not they feel mastery or self-efficacy and trying to adhere to class learning regimes. Let's move to a definition. Let's talk about what is qualitative research. A strategy for systematic collection, organization, and interpretation of textual information. Another one is collecting and analyzing non-numerical data, for example, text, video, or audio, to understand concepts, opinions, or experiences. I know there are many definitions, but these definitions I feel represent the critical element of a qualitative research approach. And so I will work through these for a few minutes. Think about the definition for qualitative research. We use the word strategy to connote the fact that qualitative research question is thoughtful, deliberate, conceived with a broader attention to context and to the relative strength and limitation of a qualitative method. With strategic in its nature, systematic is not something that is just formed. It rather relies on a set of established, well defined, articulated methodologies for the collecting, organizing, and analyzing of qualitative data. Qualitative research broadly uses inductive approaches. So working from the ground up to generate novel insights into phenomena that are difficult to measure quantitatively, such as preferences for learning or issues of self-efficacy and mastery in self-study management. So qualitative methods can do a couple of things. The first being generating a comprehensive description of processes and mechanisms. So thinking about processes of implementing educational services, mechanism, how one training may achieve a particular outcome or setting, what it is like to care for students in an institutional environment. These methods can also characterize participant perspectives and their experiences in great depth. Here we might think about individual behaviors, individual experiences of learning in a particular educational setting. I want to bring listeners' attention here for a few minutes. In this table diagram, we see on one column qualitative and the other column quantitative. In order to convey the real meaning, I think it's very critical notion that qualitative and quantitative method really exist along a continuum of measurement, that each has its respective strength and limitation, and then when we draw upon those two in order to minimize the limitation in a particular method and maximize its outcome, we use mixed method, which is the combination of the both. Here they are different in their focus, philosophical roots, goals of investigation, approach, design, characteristic, and data analysis. Let's see how they are different in terms of approach. Qualitative research is inductive in nature. So we are not coming to a research question with any prior hypothesis that we are testing, rather working from the ground up. Qualitative research, in terms of its goal, is to achieve depth of understanding. So we are looking at a very deep way to unpack critical issues of a specific phenomena we may be interested in, generating hypotheses that can go on and can be tested in a quantitative study. Qualitative work occurs in a natural setting, not experimental, not controlled. It doesn't happen in a lab, rather often works in the natural environment of it may help us understand the question of interest. Sampling approach in qualitative methods are purposeful in nature. Just take a moment here to think about what purposeful means. This is in contrast to the random sampling. So rather than, for instance, we are in a playground setting and we are, rather than recruiting every fifth spectator who comes through the doors of the ground, a purposeful sampling design would choose individual students that share specific characteristics. So, for instance, if we are interested in the services for students who have some challenges in learning, we surely will go for purposeful in that design, choosing only those who have the experience that we are interested in studying. Did collect in qualitative method is done through interviews, guides, and various kinds of observation tools. These are much more open-ended than a structure, surveys, or instruments we use in our quantitative studies. Data analysis is iterative process of interpreting data, going out to the field, collecting data, interpreting that going back out to the field, collecting data. This is in contrast to our approach in, for instance, a structured survey or quantitative method, where we collect all of the data and then begin our analysis only at that point. So you can see how the quality principle of qualitative method line up with quantitative methods. And I think very important to consider that these are simply a range of tools all designed to measure different aspects of phenomena of interest. So let's talk about what are the outcomes of qualitative research and what can we make of this. There are at least four ways to think about what we can generate through qualitative method. The first product is recurrent themes or hypotheses. The second product may be a survey instrument measure. So using a qualitative exploratory phase in order to design a survey to measure something that hasn't been measured previously. Taxonomy, since their classification systems in order to identify essential properties of a particular concept and conceptual models or theory. These are frameworks for helping us understand particular phenomena. For major products of qualitative research, the most common we see in the education are recurrent themes or hypotheses. So themes are unifying concepts or statements. How qualitative research help? Qualitative methods can do a couple of things. First is to help us identify and characterize a number of aspects of education and social science. The first coming patterns of behavior, when we might look at how patterns recur in a certain population or a certain environment. They can help us understand group interaction and individual perception and team behaviors. Also can help us develop testable hypotheses that can do this by helping identify the salient features, what matters in a given question, what matters from an individual perspective, and they can help to inform predictions about relationships, how the aspects or dimension of a given question might relate to one another. So let's sum up with a few thoughts. First, qualitative methods can provide unique contribution to education and educational research. We have talked through briefly some examples in this introductory segment. Second, there are rigorous and widely accepted procedures for study design, sampling, data collection, and data analysis in qualitative research. And all these things will be explained in this series, and we will talk about these all in our upcoming videos. Takeaway of this talk: you need to reflect how your chosen approach can match with this talk.